This podcast was inspired by an internship with the Museum of Motherhood. Please visit mommuseum.org for more information about the museum, to find out how you can get involved, and to help us strengthen our wonderful community of mothers. Again, that is mommuseum.org. Thanks for listening.
Hi, I'm Bethany.
And I'm Amanda. And we're sisters. We are both toddler moms, but we have very different experiences of motherhood.
So, we are on a mission to talk to different moms who all have different experiences.
With a whole lot of laughter, tears, and probably coffee, we embark on a journey to experience motherhood through the eyes of others.
Please join us on this journey as we explore motherhood through funny, loving, and very real memories.
This is Mom Talks with my sister.
Welcome back! We're here for another week. I'm so excited! When we start today, I think we need to address the elephant in the room, Bethany.
By elephant, you mean my voice?
The lack thereof.
She packed up and left. She's like, I'm not doing this anymore, so see you later.
She's like, I'm going to test you today and see if you can do this podcast without me.
And it's been, honestly, we've been struggling with technical difficulties and scheduling issues, and today we have a couple of recordings lined up. We have a couple of interviews lined up. And of course, she packs up and leaves before today.
Yeah, she was like, well, listen, I'd like to see you try to do this without me.
Yeah.
Bye.
And we're going to make it happen.
We're going to make it happen. You're going to be hurting at the end of it, but you know what? You got this.
Yeah.
And I will be your support.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
I need support, for sure.
I got you, girl.
I think a big part of it is we live in an area that's quite affected by the air quality from the fires in Canada.
Yes.
And I had to spend a lot of time outside this week because of my job, and my throat was starting to feel really dry, and it seemed fine until last night, probably around like 4:00 in the afternoon. I was like, we're losing it. So We're going to power through this, and I do apologize that the next couple of episodes, you're going to have to struggle through this lack of voice with me. Hopefully it's not too hard on your ears, but we'll get through it. So, that out of the way, let's talk about mom moments. Do you have a good one, a bad one?
So I have a bad one.
Oh, no.
And I know it was really tough. Our daughter, who is almost 3 now, she just randomly, very quickly spiked a very high fever. We took her temperature and it was 103, and I was like, that can't be right. And it happened in the matter of like a half an hour. She went from just kind of feeling warm to kind of like being antsy, and then all of a sudden she was like hot to the touch, and it was awful. So she spiked it a few times, and it kind of, is something that we are going to unfortunately talk about today. And it was a very big fear of mine that she was going to have a fever seizure. And that is one of the scariest things for me as a parent, just with the history of our family.
Yeah, and I don't want to give too much away about our conversation today, but it's something that you and I vividly remember from our childhood, and it is something that, is always on the forefront of our minds, I think, when our children get fevers. Mm-hmm. And it's never something that we can just ignore. It's very scary. It's very real for us. So I'm so sorry that you guys had to deal with that. That's terrifying.
It was terrifying, and I think too for, I don't want to speak for, most moms, because I know, a lot of people get really scared when a high fever comes, because that a seizure is something that can happen out of them. But for us, even just an elevated temperature, it scares the crap out of me to think that it could get higher and that a seizure could form from it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. But she's doing better.
She is doing better. She spiked a couple times, pretty high, but we were able to get them under control. And the unfortunate thing is we don't really know what happened. Just something viral, I guess, because she came back negative on literally every other test that we did. But she's better, and she's back to herself, and that is what is important, and we are very thankful for that.
Yeah, so. Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So yes, that was our moment, and it was not a fun one, and I hate having to talk about non-fun ones, but that's okay. Tell me about your mom moment of the week.
Yeah, absolutely. So mine is a little bit more on the lighthearted side.
Good, I think we need it.
So we were at the park last week, and the park that we go to has a slide that has 3 seats in them. and like it's a big wide slide and 3 people can go down at once. And as we know, my son has been struggling with speech and he's got a speech delay, but he's doing so good.
So good.
So we get to the park and we get up to get onto the top of the slide, and he walks over to the 3-person slide and he points it and he says, Mama, Dada, baby. And I was like, you want us to go down with you? And he said, yes. So I had my husband climb up to the top of the playground set with us, and we all sat down together. When we sat down, he just held his hand out to hold our hand.
Oh my
God. And the 3 of us went down the slide holding hands in this like 3-person slide. It was so cute. But it was just the way that he got to the top and so just perfectly, Mama, Dada, baby, and just pointed to them. It was wonderful.
I love this. That's one of those moments that like you kind of wish, is there someone like recording somewhere? Is there a CCTV that we can get a recording of this? Like, this is our moment. This is our family moment.
Absolutely. CCTV for the win.
For the win.
But I'd have to go find it, so I guess it's not a win.
You know what? You had a moment of like what all like Facebook and Instagram and like one of those like, you know, oh, we're gonna make everyone think that we're like the perfect happy family, but you had a real moment of that,
and we have it captured in memory.
Yes.
So
I love that for you.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
I love that for me too. So I think now would be a good time to go ahead and introduce our guest this week.
Okay.
We have a really very, very special guest for us this week. Today's guest is Kim, otherwise known as our mom.
Our mom, Mama Kim.
Mama Kim. She is a mother of 4, and today she will be discussing her experience of being a mom to a child with special needs, which is our youngest sibling, Allyson.
The glue to our family.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think we might hear from Alice a little later today if we're lucky.
Can't wait.
And Kim, otherwise known as Mom, because it's hard to call her Kim.
Yes.
She describes herself as a mom and a caregiver. And pretty much those are her major roles in life. So that's what she identifies with the most. So without further ado, let us welcome Mom.
Mama Kim.
Yay! Hi, Mom.
Hi, ladies.
Thank you for joining us today.
My girls.
So, Mom, can you start by telling us a little bit about your pregnancy with Allyson?
My pregnancy started out pretty well, and about 3 months in, a little before 3 months, probably 2 months in, we were living in Virginia, and your dad's mom, sent me, she sent me an email, and I was at work, and she said to me, how you doing? And I said, well, everything's good, except I have this pain in my back, and I don't know what is going on with it, why I have this. It wasn't like in the typical place that you would think about back pain, being pregnant. You would think like lower back pain, and this was like up just like underneath my ribs, and I didn't know what was going on. But I would sit at my desk and I would put my arm up above my head to like try and like stretch out whatever that pain was, and it just didn't go away. So when I went for a regular prenatal visit, they said, "Oh, you have a UTI," and I was like, "What?"
But you didn't have any like normal urinary tract infection symptoms?
None. Like I didn't know anything was wrong other than this like pain in my back, but I didn't connect the two. I just thought, just the way the baby's sitting, it's on a nerve or whatever. So I didn't think a whole lot of it, and then went back to my next visit. "Oh, you have a UTI again." And I was like, what is happening? So I couldn't figure out why. No symptoms.
Sorry to interrupt. I just have one quick question. Did they ever put you on antibiotics, like to get rid of that UTI, or did they do something different because
No, they
you
put
were
me on
pregnant?
antibiotics.
Okay.
They treated me for it, and it just wasn't doing anything for it. So we lived in Virginia at the time and didn't have family around, anything like that. And one night, your dad went to bed, and I just could not get comfortable. And I, all of a sudden, was having so much pain, like terrible amount of pain. And I felt like I was getting a fever, and you guys being older than your sister, who I was pregnant with, you were all in bed. So I said, I'm going to the emergency room. I can't take this anymore. So he stayed home with you guys. I drove myself to the emergency room. And
For those of you that do not know our mother, this is very typical of our mom.
What's more typical of our mom is to just not go.
Just not go, right?
But when she has to go, she's going to take herself.
Yes.
so I drove there, and they said, you have a UTI. And I was like, I've been treated for this. I don't know what is happening. So then I started to connect the pain in my back, and I said to them, I don't have any symptoms other than I am like feeling terrible right now, and I have this terrible pain in my back. And they said, well, we want you to go to your doctor tomorrow morning and see what the doctor says. So they wanted to give me pain medicine, but they said I couldn't take it because I had to drive myself home. So they said either you get a ride or you don't get this. And I begged them to give it to me. That's how much pain I was in. And I said, I promise I will take it when I get home. They weren't supposed to do that, but they did it for me. And the next morning, your dad went to work, and
I will never forget the next morning.
Amanda went to school.
Crying.
I was too young at this point. I don't remember this at all.
I packed you and Corey up in the car. So you were almost 4 and he was almost 3. So I had to take you guys with me to the doctor. Walked into the room, laid down on the bed. You guys were just walking around the room, and I'm like, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. This is awful. So the doctor came in, took one look at me, and said, you're going to the hospital right now. So I went over to the hospital, had to call your dad. He had to get out of work to come get you guys because I couldn't go anywhere until I had you guys taken care of. So got into the emergency room, and they had a urologist come in, and we did a kidney x-ray, and I had a kidney stone stuck in my ureter that was probably it was about the size of a jelly bean. And I know that only because I had to go in and have surgery. They could not get the kidney stone out. So I had to go into the hospital, and they had to put a nephrostomy tube into my back, which is, they literally put a hole in my back between 2 ribs, put a tube in there, and I had a bag that drained my urine. And this was about 6 months of pregnancy, at my 6th month of pregnancy when this happened. And the tube had to stay in until after I had your sister, and they could then remove the kidney stone because they couldn't do anything with that stone until she was born.
I remember, like, I mean, I don't know how to, like, else to say it, like, because, like, I remember as a kid seeing that bag on you, and, like, I didn't quite understand, but, like, now as an adult, I think about, like, raising the kids I already have, being pregnant with one, and having, that bag and that pain and, of everything else that goes with it, like, but yeah, there's everything that you're describing right now, and it's actually been a long time, if not ever, since we've talked about it in this kind of detail as adults, and it's bringing back so many memories for me right now.
Yeah, they wanted me to take pain medication, but I was afraid to do it being pregnant, so I suffered a lot with it because I didn't want to take the medication if I didn't have to. So I suffered with that for about 3 months, and I will honestly say the easiest part of my pregnancy was my actual labor and delivery.
That's incredible, Mom.
I don't remember you having that bag that collected your urine. I don't remember any of this. I was very young, like you said. I was just 4. So a lot of this is news to me, which is wild. Like I knew about the kidney stone. I knew about them putting, like I know the circular scar that you have on your back, but a lot of this is also very new to me. Like I didn't realize that you had a bag that collected your urine for, 6 months?
3 months.
3 months?
Mm-hmm. Wow. Because we did, I was in the hospital. It happened right around 4th of July because I was in the hospital for your brother's 3rd birthday.
Now this I remember because I remember seeing you in the hospital for Corey's birthday and the fireworks out the window.
Yes.
I do remember that.
I don't remember that.
Really?
Yeah, you want to know I don't know, maybe this is some kind of, we can talk to a psychologist about this, but like for whatever reason I remember like the traumatic stuff. Like I remember that morning that you went to the doctor with them and you made me get on the bus and Mom was on the living room floor like crying out in pain, and our mom probably has like one of the highest pain tolerances I've ever seen out of anybody, even to this day. And to see your mom in that much pain, and normally Mom would never show that she was in pain. Mom could cut her finger off and she'd be like, oops.
I had a small accident. You know what? I'm just going to walk it off.
I'll try to sew it back on myself and it'll be fine. So that's why I remember going to school crying that morning, because for me, I was like, I have to do something. I have to help my mom. Like, I've never seen her like this. There's something wrong. I'm scared. I'm scared for you. I don't know what to do. And Mom just on the floor in the living room was like, Amanda, please, you have to just go, because it was like one less kid to kind of like worry about in that moment, because I wasn't old enough at that point to watch you guys or
but
say
you were old enough to remember, and I didn't want you to remember. If something happened where.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I think the like psychology behind it is like, I don't remember Corey's birthday in the hospital. I remember Corey's birthday after, when like we celebrated it at home, but I don't remember the fireworks in the hospital room celebrating his birthday. I have zero memory of that.
Now let me ask you this. Do you, at this point when you saw Mom in pain for the first time, did you also know she was pregnant and understood what that meant?
Yes.
So I think that's also a big part of it too, is that I was so small, and for me, I mean, I don't remember her even being pregnant with Allyson. I don't remember, the excitement or the non-excitement that I felt about having another sibling join the family. To me, like, I don't know how I reacted to that. I know how Corey reacted to that, because he was gonna fall her in the garbage.
Yes, now that all came about because when I was sick and in the hospital, we weren't going to find out whether we were having a boy or a girl. So when we talk about throwing the baby in the garbage, that all came from the fact that I didn't know what any of you three were. I didn't know whether you were boys or girls, or when I was having this kidney problem, when I was having an ultrasound, the technician said, "Oh, look at her in there." And I just looked at her like, what? So I found out that she was a girl by accident. The tech actually started crying when I looked at her, because she said, "You didn't know?" And I said, "Nope," and I wasn't going to find out. And she goes, "Please don't tell, I'll lose my job."
Oh,
I know.
And I would never have done that.
Right.
I mean, I wasn't, it wasn't that upsetting.
Right.
But, so I knew your brother wanted a brother. So I said to him, "But what if it's a girl?" He goes, "I will throw her in the garbage."
But I think that back to the psychology of it all, I think that just we remember what imprinted on us, right? Yep. And I remember the celebration because I was a kid, right? And even though Mom was in the hospital, I don't even think that registered to me. It was just, this is where we're having Corey's birthday and there's fireworks out the hospital window. Yeah. And that's when we called him Boom Boom. Yep. Right? Yep. And I remember that vividly.
Because he thought the fireworks were for him because he was born on the 4th of July. So, boom, boom.
Exactly. So I think, but for you, you had a whole different grasp on the situation because you were old enough to know that Mom is maybe in danger and a new sibling may be in danger. And that's going to take the driver's seat of your emotional memory over me being like, fireworks!
Right. Right. No, you're exactly right.
So, okay. So now you said you had a pretty uneventful labor and delivery.
Labor and delivery was great. I was actually after they got the nephrostomy tube in and it was, draining and all of that, they said, what we'll do is after you deliver, you'll come back about a week later, and we'll take the tube out. And I knew I wasn't going to have any more kids after that. So they said, well, we'll take the tube out and we'll schedule your tubal ligation at the same time. Get it done. You'll be done with, and everything will be good. So fast forward to, about a month before, I was dilating, and I was 5 centimeters dilated for 4 weeks. And I went in for a visit, and the doctor said, I don't understand this. The wind should make you go into labor. I literally went to the hospital. He goes, we're going to bring you in on Thursday of this week. And I saw him on Monday. He goes, you're going to come in Thursday, and we're going to break your water and see what happens. Nothing about, no induction, anything like that, because I was already so far dilated. So I went in, got into the hospital at 7:30 in the morning. We have video of this, and you can see the clock in the background. 10 after 8, I'm filling out paperwork. We're having a good laugh with the doctor, and the doctor says, I've been up all night. I'm going to take a shower. And at 8:30, I said to your dad, go get the nurse because this baby's coming right now. She was born at 8:36 a.m.
Oh my gosh.
They broke my water at 7:35 a.m. So I was in labor for 1 hour and 1 minute. Didn't even feel a pain until it was about 8:13. And she was born at 8:36.
And you did all of your labors without any epidural, correct?
I never had an epidural. I never had anything.
Back to that whole high pain tolerance.
High pain tolerance, yeah. Yeah, she's a champ.
Amanda and I were both like, yep, epidural, please, I'll take 2.
Yes.
But she was born perfectly normal. Everything was great. Everything was fantastic. She was cute and she was beautiful, and you guys came in to visit her, and your brother no longer wanted to throw her in the garbage. He couldn't kiss her enough.
Oh, I love that.
I know.
So sweet.
I will say, as we get more about talking about Allyson, all of us kids really enjoyed having siblings. I don't have memories of any one of us being like, I don't want another one, or being, not into each other. I'm not explaining this properly, but excited to have a sibling. And when they got there, oh my gosh, there's another one of us. This is so cool.
I think that it's a natural reaction, though, for some kids to just be like, wait a minute, I have to share my mom and my dad. And I think that a part of it, too, you were 5 by the time I was born. So you were old enough to understand how to share, whereas a lot of kids are born closer together. And those kids are 2 maybe, and they don't understand the concept of sharing toys, let alone sharing people.
Right.
And I think that's a big concept for kids to pick up on. So,
No.
I mean, it's tough, but like I said, I don't remember how I felt about Allyson. Do you remember how I felt, Mom, when you told me you were pregnant?
I don't remember you having a negative reaction or a positive reaction. I know your sister was excited about another baby.
Do you remember how you told me that you were pregnant? I remember exactly.
With Allyson?
Yep.
With Allyson, I don't remember.
So I can tell you the whole layout of the house, and I won't get into all of it. But our mom was like, guess what? I go, what? And you were like, go look in the dresser. And Mom and Dad had this dresser, and there was these built-in shelf things where you opened up the top of it, kind of almost like a jewelry box on them. And I opened it up, and there was the pregnancy test in there. And I was old enough to know what it was, not quite understand it at that point, but I knew what it was. And I remember Mom she was blow drying her hair. That's how much I remember this moment. And I was like, nuh-uh. Like, I just remember like, no. And you're like, I'm like, you are not. And she was like, And I was so excited. But yeah, that's how vivid of a memory I have of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Now that you say that, I do remember.
Yeah.
That's so.
So she was beautiful and we all loved her. So now as we talk about Allyson more, and Bethany and I mentioned earlier how my daughter had a fever and I was worried about a seizure. So can you tell everybody what happened with Allyson and getting her fever for the first time and then having a seizure?
Yes, she was about 14 months old and she was perfectly fine. We had moved back to New York to be closer to family. And 14 months old, I put her to bed and I closed her bedroom door and I was going to get you guys ready for bed. And I hear this strange noise come out of that bedroom. She hadn't been in there 5 minutes. And I was like, what is that noise? I went in there, I opened the door, and she was in her crib seizing. Scared the living heck out of me. I grabbed her out of the crib and I ran to the phone and probably should have called 911, but I called my mother, who was a nurse.
That's what we do, right?
Yeah.
We all call our mom. Like, when I had my first traumatic experience, I should have called 911, and I called my mom.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think if you're lucky enough to have that relationship, right? Because
Right, not everyone does or
Right.
is lucky enough to have their mom still.
right.
So my mom was a nurse, and I called her and I said, there's something wrong with Allyson. There's something wrong with Allyson.
Was she still seizing at this point?
In my arms, seizing. And I explained to her what was going on. She goes, hang up the phone and call 911 right now. So I hung up the phone, I call 911, and they come to the house, and they get her in the ambulance, and they take her to the hospital. And what they said happened was she had what they called a febrile seizure. And they say it's not how high the fever gets, it's how fast the temperature went up. And they said it's probably just a fluke thing and will probably never happen again. And I was like, oh, thank God. So they put her on.
And she didn't, I'm sorry, Mom, she didn't feel warm at all to you when you put her down?
Not even a little. There was nothing abnormal about when she went in her room. And it was literally 5 to 10 minutes at the very absolute most.
Now, when you went in and you picked her up, was she warm at that point?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes. When I picked her up, I couldn't believe how warm she was. So they said they put her on medication. They put her on a medication called Tegretol. And I don't know what it did. They said, we'll put her on this for a couple of weeks and we'll take her off. We'll see what happens. They said, it's just one of those things. For some reason, she got a fever and it skyrocketed so quickly. That's what caused the seizures. So I thought, okay, they put her on the Tegretol. They sent us to a neurologist. We saw the neurologist. They said, yeah, just a febrile seizure. It's probably never going to happen again. They said it's not uncommon. The seizure part of it's less common, but we think everything's good. So she was on the Tegretol for 2 weeks. We took her off. A week went by. Everything was good. I'm like, oh, thank God this is over. Don't have to deal with this anymore. Boy, was I wrong. I was getting her dressed to go to daycare, and she lost all muscle tone. She just collapsed to the floor, and I was like, what is happening? And she had another seizure. Actually, she wasn't getting ready to go to daycare. We were going to go out for the night because we had a babysitter coming over. So I had to cancel the babysitter, and I called and we went back to the hospital, and they said, we don't know what's happening. You're going to have to follow up with your neurologist. She's fine now, whatever. So another 2 weeks went by, and then it was like all hell broke loose. she started having seizures after seizure after seizure after seizure. And there were times that she would have, there were different kinds of seizures. She would have the tonic-clonic seizures where her whole body would shake. She would have seizures where just she would be looking at you and then the whole life would go out of her. It was like she didn't even, like no one was there. They call those absence seizures.
I remember we called them her staring seizures.
And then she would have, these were the worst, she had what they called drop attacks. And we had to get her a helmet. She had to wear a helmet all the time. And it was like literally her hands would go up in the air and it was like someone had a rope tied to her neck and would just pull her to the floor. She would just go flat back and just, if she didn't have a helmet on, she would have slammed her head onto the floor.
And Mom, how many, I'm getting way more emotional about this than I thought I would. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
How many seizures was she having a day?
Between the ages of 2 and 5, between all the different kinds of seizures, she was having 60 to 100 a day. She basically existed. You know, we'd keep her on a mat on the floor, on a blanket with pillows all around her, and she'd basically sit there, have a seizure, recover. Have a seizure, recover. Have a seizure, recover. And they tried all different kinds of medication, and they did an EEG, and they came up with a diagnosis, and the diagnosis was called epilepsy of Doose. DOOSE. That's the name of the person that discovered this form of epilepsy. And it's also called myoclonic astatic epilepsy. And basically, they told us that they would hopefully be able to get it under control with medication by the time she was 5. And that kind of happened. But they said by the time she hit puberty, it would change and she would start having seizures more at night and in the morning. And that's exactly what happened, which to me, that's way better because at least she could function during the day. With the type of epilepsy she had, they said that her development would stop and maybe even regress. But at this point, she was less than 2 years old. So she did progress a little bit more, and now she'll be 28 this year, and she can't read. She recognizes all her letters. She can recognize some numbers, but I would basically say socially she's maybe 6, 7, but as far as academic kind of things, she's more like 3 or 4.
Now, when did you significantly notice the stop or regression of her brain function? Because for a while, she was functioning completely normal. And when she first started having seizures, she maintained functionality. So when was it that you saw that regression or that stoppage?
I would say by the time she was 4, I realized that she wasn't really gaining much. I mean, she walked. Her gait is very unsteady, but she can walk and she can talk and she can socialize. She can understand conversation. She can converse back to you. She does do a lot of questions. Like she'll hear a word and she'll say, like, America, what's that? So she's trying to learn and she wants to learn, but she's just very, very delayed. because of the medical condition. But I would say it was harder to notice it in the beginning because she was still a little kid. And, you know, it was kind of hard to see the progress between, you know, all the seizures she was having, because it was just, she existed. And it was hard to tell what was happening. And then as she got more under control with the seizures during the day, you could really, really see where the delay was.
So now where she's at 28, she's not having the variety of seizures anymore, right? She's pretty much only on the one type of grand mal seizure. Is that
Right.
correct?
Yeah, but the drop attacks stopped, I would say, oh, geez, I remember, Amanda, you were in middle school, and I remember taking her to a concert. You had a chorus concert, and we got there a few minutes late, and they had closed the doors. I think, I don't know, another group was on before your group, and they closed the doors, and we were standing there waiting to go in, and she had her helmet on, and she had a drop attack in the hallway of the school, and there was a lady that was standing out there with us waiting to go in, and she literally screamed. You know, and it's very strange because people who don't see these seizures, it's very unsettling for someone who's never seen a seizure to see it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why when she first started having them, we were all so freaked out. Yeah. But at this point, it's just another day in the life.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I mean, to the point where, you know, we were out to dinner.
I was going to bring up this story. Yeah. I didn't know if you remembered this story.
Absolutely. I mean, this was Corey was there too. I think we were visiting you when you were living in Florida.
Yeah, you guys had come down and we went to like this Polynesian show when I was living in Florida.
Oh, such a nice restaurant.
Yeah,
that was so much fun.
Yeah, that was a really fun time.
In the restaurant, there was a gentleman at the table behind us, and he had it was a grand mal seizure, and the three of us, having grown up with Allyson, knew what was happening. Amanda, being the oldest of us, jumps into action. Corey and I are like, oh man, he's having a seizure. Amanda's like, back up, he's having a seizure. And like so we're like helping him get him onto his side.
The lady who he was at dinner with, there was 4 people at his table, and the lady he was having dinner with, she's just screaming. She didn't know what to do. And I jumped up and I was like, put him on his side, you know, like, yeah.
Just the things that we grew up doing. It was normal. I mean, normal in terms of what our life was. It was Allison's having a seizure. We need to, get her into a safe place where she's not going to hurt herself with as little around as possible. Get her onto her side so if she vomits, she doesn't, asphyxiate on the vomit. So like these things that have become second nature to us, and even some of our closest friends who have seen Allyson have a seizure, they still get bothered by it, where for us it's just like, okay, we got to do what we got to do and we're going to get through it. And it's not, and it's happened a lot to you, whereas like, when you've been grocery shopping before, she's had a seizure, and, passerbys trying to do the right thing at no fault of their own, call the ambulance, and mom's like, no, like, we're good, I'm going to take her home, she's epileptic. So it becomes
a normal, it's an unfortunate normal. And, like I said, you telling all this stuff, it's the first time we've really kind of dove in deep to this as adults. And I got way more emotional than I thought I was gonna. And I don't know if part of it is because of my daughter spiking the high seizure last week. And now, talking about these memories of Allyson, and they're so vivid in my brain, and watching my sibling, have to go through that, watching now as a parent myself, watching you go through that, and my everything wants to wrap around how you did it. And I know you just do it, right? It's like things that we've talked about previously. You just do it.
Because when you have no choice,
right?
That's what you have to do. You have to just do it. Like, people will say to me, how do you do it? Like you just said, what choice do I have? Right. You have to do it.
So my question is, you had 3 other children that you were raising, and now you have a daughter that has this epilepsy that requires pretty much 100% attention. How did you handle that? As I know that in terms of you just do it, you figure it out. But in the day-to-day, what was your life like when you were first dealing with this, learning how to deal with the epilepsy and still raise your other children?
When it first happened, I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I don't want to say I neglected you, because I don't think I neglected you, but I was focused on her. And I know that I got to the point where I'm like, if this is what my life is going to be, this is what my life is going to be. And I'm not going to stop taking her places with me. And so like when you would go to cheerleading practice, you'd go to cheerleading, I'd make sure you got to cheerleading. And then, a lot of times at the end, I'd come in and pick you up. And I'll never forget the day one of your friends just looked at you and she goes, "Why does your little sister always look drunk?"
I forgot about that.
And you explained to her, well, she has epilepsy and she has seizures, and I was so proud of you answering that question like that.
Oh, thanks, Mom.
And then Bethany, when you were in first grade, I remember your teacher saying to me that you were so kind to a girl in your classroom who had special needs. And I explained to the teacher, well, she has a little sister with special needs, and they're very kind to her. And I think it taught all of you guys to just be very conscious of, people that are like that. Because what would bother me tremendously would be when people would stare at her. Like, I respected Amanda, your friend, who said, she came right out and she asked.
Right.
And we were able to tell her, versus someone that just stares at you. I remember a woman staring at her. We went to the drive-in and she had to use the bathroom. We went into the bathroom and this is a grown woman and she's just staring at her. Like, her eyes would just look at her, and then she'd look at me and then look away, and then I'd catch her staring at her again. And I just said to her, I said, you can ask if there's something that's bothering her, but she has enough problems that she doesn't need people staring at her. If you want to know if there's something wrong with her, I can tell you. But she just looked at me and walked out. Because I think she was embarrassed that she got caught staring at her. But, I respect people more who would ask or just, not just think, oh my God, what's up with her?
Right.
And
growing up, it's absolutely true that we were all affected by this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I am so thankful for it because it really did teach us all a lesson. I think that we all grew up a little bit quicker than some of our friends had to, because we did have this to be conscious of. But I'll never forget, there was a kid in my middle school, his name was Matt, and he had Down syndrome. And he was just the sweetest. Everything was so funny to him, and he was so happy, and kids were mean to him. And I was always, I would stand up for him, and I would yell at people for being mean to him. And I would tell them, it's not his fault. He's just trying to fit in, right? We're all trying to find our place in this world. And it makes it harder when you have a disability or a disadvantage like that mentally, where you just want to be like everyone else. Because I think that's, Allyson is that way too. She wants to do what we're doing. And nowadays, versus when she was growing up, I think there's a lot more opportunities. She was able to do a special needs cheerleading team, and they have a lot more special needs options. But, being conscious of that. And I know for a fact, and I can speak for you because I know for a fact that we are going to raise our kids in a way that we are going to accept everybody, because we can't judge anybody for their situation because we don't know what their situation is, and they are lucky enough to have Allyson as their aunt, and we're lucky enough to have her as our little sister.
The cool thing is that, she has her moments where she gets angry, and, a lot of times she doesn't even really understand what she's even angry about, or there's times where she is so fixated on one thing, and if that one thing can't happen right when she wants it to, she does get angry. But in the end, everything with Allyson is just unconditional, family. It's cool, just she's the best part of, our family as a whole. I mean, she's just Allyson. And honestly, I can't imagine her any other way.
I know. I know. And I feel like not only does she bring the life lessons that we've all learned from her, I can speak very, personally to even my husband. So, and whether it's, somebody that we've dated in our past, or it's friends that have come into our lives, or friends that have stayed in our lives from childhood, people are always uncomfortable at first. And then, like you said, if you ask, or they become part of it, they kind of get used to being around somebody with special needs. Where my point with my husband is that, I could tell at first he was just a little, I don't want to do the wrong thing. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I'm just not used to being around this. And now, I mean, they give each other crap all the time. And it's the best. And
the banter.
Yes.
And it's, and I will even say, if we're out in public and we see somebody, I can actually, a couple years ago, it was right before COVID. So it was before we even had our daughter. We were out at a restaurant, and one of the kids that Allyson went to school with was in the restaurant, and he recognized us, and he's not as verbal as Allyson is, but he came over and he tapped us on the shoulder, and he's trying to communicate the best he can with us, and my husband did amazing with it, where okay, I'm comfortable with it, oh my gosh, I forgot his name. I think I want to say it was David or something. But
David was your boyfriend for a while.
David was your boyfriend for a while. It might have been David. But I could see the growth in him, where even now, when we're out and if we see somebody with special needs, so it's not just us who grew up in it. It's the people that are now around her, and she brings a sense of joy and a sense of light. And yes, it can be hard and it can be frustrating, and we'd be lying to everybody out there if we said that we didn't get frustrated, or that it wasn't hard, or that there's days where you're like, oh my gosh, Allyson, just come on. We all go through it, and Mom, you go through it the most being her full-time caregiver, but the joy that she brings not only to all of us, but to the people that are in our lives and the people's whose lives she affects. It's the cool thing is that it's so, she doesn't know. It's just natural for her, and she has no idea the impression that she leaves on all of us.
100%. 100%.
Well, I'll see people that Allyson was mainstreamed into the school district that you guys grew up in. There were good things, there were bad things. I mean, we had a couple instances with, she was a special needs teacher that I'm not sure should still have been a special needs teacher, because we had a lot of problems there. But then they tried to mainstream her more into a classroom where one day they let me come in, because I felt like she was regressing. And I went in and I sat in the back of the classroom, and they were talking about things that someone like Allyson just could not grasp. They were talking about walking. Could you walk from one side of the world to the other side of the world? Well, Allyson knows you can walk. So, she said yes. And the teacher was like, no, there's oceans, and there's talking about geography. So I said, this is way too much for her. I said, this is not where she belongs, because I see what you're trying to do, but by keeping her with, I don't even want to use the word regular kids, just, Allyson has
they more had
needs.
Learning disabilities as far as delayed learning, but they weren't educationally, they weren't delayed like Allyson. There's not really a better way to describe it.
Yeah, so that was one of the battles that I had to fight, was that the school district, they have this term that they use when they place someone, is that they want to meet their needs, but they don't want it to be, and I'm using quotes, too restrictive. So they thought that keeping Allyson with peers that didn't have as much of a delay as her kept it so it wasn't too restrictive. And I said, but Allyson can't do extracurricular activities with, all the other kids. She can't. I said, I feel this is restrictive.
Yeah.
She can't be in the normal chorus because she can't. Well, it's almost as if you were, as an English-speaking student, just thrown into a Spanish-speaking classroom and expected to just go with it.
That's a good analogy.
Because it's like that's not what Allyson understands. Right. And I understand, for a normal functioning brain, quote, normal functioning brain, theoretically in a Spanish-speaking classroom, we should be able to pick up on Spanish.
Correct.
But Allyson, her brain doesn't work the same way. Right. So for her in school, it was much more important for her to learn how to brush her teeth, how to put her shoes on the right feet.
Activities of daily living.
Yes. Learning how to exist as a human versus George Washington was the first president of the United States. Right. Because although for you and I, that will get us somewhere, for Allyson, that's not going to be helpful.
Right. Right. So I had to go into, we had a special meeting with the school, and they kept saying, well, because there was another school that I had heard about, was called Creekside School. It was part of the BOCES program, and I'd heard phenomenal things about it. So when I went in to talk to them, I brought a picture of Allyson and I put it on the table because I had someone say to me, well, I met with Allyson for 20 minutes and we walked down the hall and we did this. So they're basing their decision on 20 minutes with Allyson. 20 minutes with Allyson can be on both ends of the spectrum. Like I said, if there was one thing that threw her off, like if she was supposed to be doing something at that moment and this person came and took her away from that could throw her off kilter and into a totally different space. But I said, you cannot base you don't know Allyson. So I put the picture on the table. I said, this is Allyson. She is not a number. She is not a statistic. I said, this is my daughter, and she deserves the best that she can have, and something that's going to help her grow and to learn. And when they kept using the words too restrictive, I said, what this does to Allyson is this makes Allyson the special kid. She's special. I said, I don't want her to be special. I want her to be like everyone else. I want her treated like everything else. And that's what this school district, this other program will do for her. She will be with peers that are like her, but it's not going to be, oh, look at her. Because she got in trouble once when she was in the regular program because, Amanda, you were teaching or coaching cheerleading with me, and she knew a lot of those girls. Mm-hmm. And because we taught the grade level that Allyson would have been in. Yeah. And when she would see those girls, she thought of them as her friend. Everyone was her friend. So if she saw someone, she wanted to say hi to them. She wanted to hug them. She wanted to talk to them. She'd see them and she'd say, Lauren, Lexi. And she wanted to interact with them. But the school would say, she's not following directions. She's talking when she shouldn't be talking. She's bothering other people. To Allyson, that's not a bother. That's right. Allyson. Yeah. So we got her in this other program, and she thrived. Learned how to write her name, learned how to, learned all her letters, and it was just a wonderful program. And she thrived in this school. And she stayed there till she was 21.
So then where did she go?
Yeah, what is
after
Allyson
that, and what is she doing now?
Now,
sorry.
No, that's okay.
Now Allyson goes to a day hab program, which she still calls it school, but it's a day hab program
To
for
be fair,
adults.
we all still call it school.
I do too.
Allyson, how was school today?
Oh, every day.
Every day.
Me too.
She gets on a bus.
Yep. She
So
gets
it's
on a
school
bus.
bus.
Yes.
Yeah, she gets on the school bus, and but there's a program that's for adults, age 21 to, I know there's almost 60-year-olds in there, but again, they all have needs, different needs, but they're all treated exactly the same. And they do music class, art class, theater class, movement class, and then they can join an after program theater class, and then every 8 weeks they put on a play.
I love it. And it creates that structure that she needs where she has an expectation. She knows I'm going in and I'm doing this today and I'm doing this today and I'm doing this today. And unless something, happens in the day, that's the only way that it's going to change it. And, I think for not just Allyson, but I think other humans that are like her, and I always unintentionally say kids, and that's not really a fair thing to say.
Right. No,
But
I do the same thing.
Yeah,
I do
But
too.
and that's not fair of us.
And
right?
I think that, right, it's not fair in that we call, other people kids. But for us, Allyson is always going to be a kid.
Right.
She's so, and she embraces the heck out of that.
Yeah.
If you say, Allyson, are you going to drive a car? She says, no, I'm too little.
Yes.
So even though she's 28, she even, in her eyes, she's a kid.
And I think too, though, it would be different if maybe she wasn't the youngest sibling. Like if she was the oldest sibling, we might not use that term kid. So I think for us, it's more of an endearing term, and we don't mean it to offend anybody else.
Right.
But I think because she is, like you said, she's always going to be a kid, and she's our kid sister. That I think that's part of it. But I think that what they do now, it creates that structure that I think that they need.
Right. All people with special needs really do thrive with structure.
Yeah.
I think that it just helps when they can't visualize a future. Because Allyson, at least, I don't want to keep saying may, because that again isn't fair. Allyson has no concept of time.
Right.
So she can't visualize a future, but she knows that after music comes art.
Yes.
And after art comes lunch. And after lunch comes gym. So that structure, she can, in her way, visualize the future.
Yep.
So speaking of future, I know that I asked you this once, and this was a really hard question for me to ask you. I think I was in my early 20s when I asked. I had asked if Allyson has a regular life expectancy, because does she? With epilepsy, have you ever been told that she doesn't have a normal life expectancy? Is this something that we, have to worry about?
I've never been told that she doesn't have a normal life expectancy, but through the Epilepsy Foundation of New York, it's called EPI New York, they have classes and things for different, living with seizures, caregivers of people with seizures, and then things that can happen. And I know this has always been in the back of my mind. I try not to think about it, but there's something that they call SUDEP. It's SUDEP, and it's sudden unexpected death in epilepsy. And it's something that's always there. I mean, if she got into a bad pattern of a seizure and they couldn't get it to stop, or if she was sleeping and had a seizure that I wasn't aware she was having, and it turned into one that I couldn't get her rescue medication to get her out of the seizure, I that's something that I have in the back of my mind, but I try not to think about it. But as far as I know, she could live a normal, have a normal life expectancy. An Allyson life. And you know what? She's not, and this is one thing that gives me comfort, is she doesn't have with the learning disability that she has with it, some people have epilepsy and they have to be afraid of things. Allyson isn't afraid because she doesn't understand. But then there's bad things about not understanding, because everyone is Allyson's friend. So everyone is a friend. You know, she meets you once, you're her friend. If you have to tell her you have to hold my hand because there's a car coming, or, you know, we have to look for cars, she doesn't understand the concept of how much damage a car could do to someone. You know, she will say something like, oh yeah, that car could make me bleed. You know, just doesn't understand the...
Well, it's like you said earlier too, it's you know, where her brain is kind of like, you know, frozen in time, if you will. It's like always having like a toddler, you know, it's like I'm teaching my daughter whenever, you know, we are crossing a street or if we're in a parking lot, I every time, look that way. Do you see any cars coming? No. Look that way. Do you see any cars coming? No. Okay. Can we cross the street now? Yes. You know, like breaking it down very simply now as in a toddler, but it's like always having that, never growing out of, you know, getting that full understanding.
So I think we have a really good picture painted of Allyson. I think that everybody can be a little envious that they don't have her in their life.
If you don't have an Allyson, you should get an Allyson.
Just saying. So let's talk a little bit about mothering a special needs child. What has that been like for you as she's grown up?
Being a girl, when you grow up, you have her body does things that all normal girls do. She gets her period and she absolutely hates it. I mean, the moment
Who doesn't?
The moment she gets it, I want this bleeding to stop.
Yes. We hear you loud and clear.
And I agree, because it's something that I have to deal with. Now that I've gone through menopause, at least I don't have me to deal with and her to deal with. So that's, you know, that's...
Do we all remember when we all lived in a house together?
And we all were on the same cycle.
All of us, yes.
Oh, our poor brother.
He handled it like a champ.
He did.
He didn't throw a single one of us in the garbage.
He didn't throw a single one of us in the garbage.
But, you know, those kind of things... she really can't shower herself, so I have to, you know, make sure she's taken care of, you know, by getting a shower. And honestly, I'm going to be perfectly honest, the easiest thing for me is to just bring her right in the shower with me. Mm-hmm. And because I've tried, you know, trying to shower her outside the shower, I just get soaking wet, so why not? Right. I shower, she stands, you know, or she sits on the toilet out, you know, waiting for me to get done with my shower, and then she just comes in, and that's how we deal with it. So it's usually a shower for two.
Yeah, but it's I feel like that's something that any mom of a young child can understand. I mean, I'm at the point where I take my son into the shower with me. He's 2. Yeah. And isn't that when Allyson pretty much stopped progressing, you know, mm-hmm. as far as her intellect goes. So it's coming up with what works. And again, you can't be judgmental to something you don't know. Right. So if that's what works, I've taken showers with Allyson. Mm-hmm. You know, like
we all have, I think. Yeah.
As we help out, like, hey, can you? When we were all growing up together, can Allyson hop in with you? Can you shower her really quick? Yeah, not a problem. Right. You know, and it's nothing weird either with Allyson, because that's something she doesn't understand.
She doesn't. Right. That's never even like anything like that never comes up. The only, you know, time we ever talk about any private parts or anything is I still have to help her in the bathroom. She can go pee by herself and take care of herself. But as far as pooping, I always know when she has to go, because she'll get up and she'll say, I'm going to call your name. Which means I have to go poop and you have to wipe me.
To be fair, though, if we're ever over, sometimes our names get called.
Yes,
so.
It's always Amanda's.
It's usually my name.
But you all know you have toddlers. There's a huge difference between toddler poo and 27-year-old poo.
Right.
But you gotta do what you gotta do.
And again, with Allyson, when back to calling her a kid, if you ask her, are you going to wipe your own butt? She says, well, I can't. I'll get germs.
Right, I'll get germs.
We can get her germs, and that's okay. But
So moving into the future and future planning as you're getting older, what are your thoughts on being her full-time caregiver?
at this point, I'm not ready to say that I would ever put her in a group home because that scares the jeepers out of me. I know there's good group homes. I know there's not so good group homes. And I would not want to risk that. I mean, at this point, our life works the way it is. And I'm going to be 60 next year. Isn't that shocking? But anyway.
It's just a number.
It's just a number. But, I mean, anytime something could happen. And this is where I have failed in that she should be under a guardianship program right now, and I have not done that because it's expensive. But I have to do that. I have to get...
Can you explain what a guardianship program is? Because I don't even know that I know.
You literally have to go to a lawyer. And because right now, if something happened to me, the state could take Allyson. And she could be a ward of the state. They could just take her and put her wherever. Because she's 27. And when she was... I mean, I should have done this when she was 18. Going through a divorce and, you know, I've moved 3 times since then, and now I'm getting myself settled, and I have to do it. I have to call and go to a
But you are a
guardianship
whole
lawyer.
ass homeowner now.
I am.
That's right.
So I have to go see a guardianship lawyer, and what they do is I will then be, you know, like a kid. If something happens to Allyson, then I get to make all the decisions. And I have not taken care of that yet. And that's very bad on my part. But I don't like to think of anything bad happening, so I just...
And that's the thing is that, you know, it's not something that I think is necessarily, you know, you have to do it legally wise, but I think it's something that you know that if anything were to happen, any one of your other children would absolutely step forward. And I mean, we would never break apart this family and just be like, oh, Allyson, bye, yeah, have fun, see you later.
And I know that, and I'm grateful for that. It's, for me, I just feel like, not that Allyson is a burden. It does make life harder. It makes, you know, like I can't just get up and go somewhere.
Right.
You know, it's hard finding, I don't even want to say babysitter because she's not a baby, a caregiver.
And it's expensive. And, you know, especially, you know, just with how the world is today, everything is expensive. So, and we know, having toddlers now for ourselves, how expensive just having one babysitter is for a toddler, let alone somebody who's qualified enough to take care of an adult with special needs.
Right. And that's where you guys stepped up to the plate big time when you were in school. And I appreciate it greatly because I worked full time. Your dad worked full time. And Allyson went to a after-school daycare, but after the age of 12, they couldn't do that. And there were times where you guys would come home and you would watch her. And, I mean, we always made it work, though. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we always did. Always. And was it always the easiest thing for you guys? No, I know it wasn't. And I know there were times when you resented it.
I don't have one memory of resenting it.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think
Maybe that's the wrong word.
but it may have come across that way. We were teenagers. Teenagers are angsty to begin with.
Right.
So everything comes across as a burden and as a resentment, you know. But I think for us, we wouldn't have changed one single thing about how we grow up. Not one single thing. I don't ever remember wishing that Allyson wasn't the way that she was for any other reason than, you know, I wish she
For
would have
her.
had a normal life.
For her, yep.
But there are also so many times growing up and now I look at Allyson and there's a part of me that's just so envious. I'm over here like, how am I going to pay my mortgage? And Allison's over there like, what's on Disney? Like, happy as can be, you know what I mean? And it's like she won't ever have the same worries that we do as, you know, normal functioning adults. She doesn't have to worry about getting her heart broken. She doesn't have to worry about, you know, although she understands death in a way, it's just, you know, Grandma and Papa, they aren't here anymore. But she doesn't feel that overwhelming sense of grief with death. You know, she doesn't have to worry about paying bills or getting a job or, you know, everything that we complain about as adults. So it's like, there are times where I look at her and I'm like, dang, jealous.
Right. It's like grounding. It like brings you back, you know, to a sense of no matter what you're stressing about, you know, you have that, like Allyson, you know, talking to you on the phone, like, we have dinner. You did? What did you have? And then all of a sudden your mind isn't worrying about those things. Your mind is, you know, back down to earth and not worrying about the things that you really shouldn't be.
It's as soon as you hear, hey sister.
Hey sister.
I think it's good though that you're pointing out that you haven't done the guardianship, because I think that you're not alone in that. I think there are probably many other moms in your shoes that are overwhelmed by life in general, and then they are full-time caregivers. I mean, I've seen it. We see it in the grocery store. You know, you see an elderly woman walking around with, you know, her child that has special needs that's your age, you know, and it's just like, it happens. This is a normal thing. And I think that more people need to be more open about the struggles of it and the reality of it. Like you said, finding a trustworthy caregiver. You know, there was respite services that you were given that proved to be untrustworthy. Allyson came home with bruises from staff members, you know, so it's like, for good reason, you have reason to doubt and be worried because you've experienced it. And there are other people out there who have wonderful group homes.
Right. Yep.
And they have a completely opposite experience, but it's all something that's worth discussing, I think, and that's what this podcast is for bringing moms with similar experiences together so that they know you're not alone.
Right. Yep. Oh, I think that's perfect.
But bottom line for me is I wouldn't trade Allyson the way she is for anything. I mean, selfishly. But, I mean, for her, I'd be happy if she, you know, was living, you know, on a regular adult life, out doing her own thing. But from the age of 2, we knew it was never going to be that way. And I think we've made the most of it, the best of it. And Allyson is just Allyson, and I wouldn't trade her for the world.
I don't know about you, Amanda, but Allyson goes to Disney World every year.
Allyson goes to Disney World every year.
I don't.
If this was like a regular situation and, you know, she were quote unquote normal, we would be telling mom that she has a favorite child, and then we would be jealous and we'd be mad. And
We'd be like, we all know Allison's your favorite.
we all know Allison, and she's the baby. That's it.
She gets away with everything.
But you know what? That's funny. I heard that from Amanda about you, that you got away with everything.
That's because she did.
That's because I was the middle child and I was completely forgotten about.
You were the true middle child. You were true middle child.
True middle child.
What can I say?
All right. Well, with that, I think we should hopefully try to lighten things up. We'll see what happens here. We are going to move into our segment called Ask a Mom. So, Mom, if you would like to spin that fancy schmancy wheel right in front of you, we'll see what number we get, and you are going to answer a random question that we are going to find out what it is, because we don't know what it's going to be either.
Well, we're all going to answer the question.
We are all going to answer the question. So
Should I be scared?
You should not.
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
So these questions were given to us by friends.
Yes, so these were submitted by people that we know or people of people that we know, and it's from people who either don't want kids, aren't sure if they want kids, or
Just say that they don't currently have
they
children.
don't- okay. These are questions submitted by people who currently do not have children of their own, and they would like to know the answer to this question from a mom. So we're all going to answer them short form. Try to make it 60 seconds or so. Okay? All right, Mom, why don't you give that wheel a spin?
Round and round she goes. Too long of a spin.
All right, Mom, what did you get?
Number 2.
All right. So number 2 comes in from Izzy, and Izzy is 20. Izzy does not know if they want their own children. And the question is, what do you wish you knew before becoming a mom? That's a really good question.
I like this question. I think this is a hard one to answer.
That's a
so, too.
good question. I think I'd have to think about that, because for me, I knew I wanted kids when I was a young teenager. I babysat every kid in the neighborhood. I literally would get people calling me in June saying, I know it's really early, but we want you for New Year's Eve. Trying
I love that.
to get me to babysit before, anybody else took me.
So you knew very early on, you were
I knew
like, kids
very
are my
early on
thing.
in my life. But what I wish I knew, I'm
All of it?
stumped.
I'm going to say all of the things I wish I knew. My answer is I wish I would have known that you are literally going to be terrified for the rest of your life.
Mom, she stole my answer.
That's a good. You're absolutely right on that.
And not just when we're talking about serious things like we just talked about, but like little things. I don't think for me I was at all prepared for that. I was prepared for my life to change. My husband and I, we decided that we were going to start trying, and if we had a child, we were ready for our lives to change. Like, we know that it's going to change. We know all the things that we do now we're not going to get to do, and that's fine. And we were good with that. What I was not prepared for is just that constant fear, whether it's something small, whether it's an intrusive thought, whether it's something big that we talked about. I mean, whether it's my daughter, eating a cracker and she starts to choke, like, oh my God, it's a cracker. Or like, what is going on right now? It's a cracker. Like, little things,
I worry a lot about how he's going to feel growing up in the world. Like the fear, like literally this was my answer. Just like the fear of what is he going to do when he has his first heartbreak? What is he going to do when I don't know, when he falls down all the time, so I'm not so worried about that one anymore. But what is he going to do? What if I'm not there? What if he, like we all do, go out? What if he goes out to a party and he has too much to drink and I'm not there to pick him up? Like, I don't know. It's all those things. It's big things. It's little things. Just like you said, I wish someone had said, hey, like everyone said, you're not going to sleep. Oh, say goodbye to your sleep. Everyone said, you're going to not be able to go out and have fun anymore, but not one person said you are going to be scared for the rest of your life about a fever, about a heartbreak, about a bad decision, about messing up parenting. Oh my God, when he went down the slide today, did I handle that the wrong way? Should I have been there at the bottom to catch him?
Right.
Like,
yep.
It's
just a constant worry or fear.
Worry.
Mm-hmm. Not trying to scare you, Izzy.
No, yeah, but we're just going to tell you that you're just going to be a little bit more worried.
I can I can see all of that you're saying. I just never lived my life like that. Like being, I mean,
We have great
then again,
things.
then again, you guys can say, oh,
Yes,
you're
we do.
such a liar, because every time you went somewhere, what did I say to you?
Call me when you get there.
Call me when you get there.
Call me when you leave.
Let me know when you get home. I don't care what time it is.
Yep. And I don't care how old you are. I don't care how old you are.
She still does it.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll go on a road trip. Amanda, call me when you get there.
So I guess subconsciously I have that, but I don't
good.
let it,
Take over your life.
right. Because you guys know we've had some pretty scary things happen,
We absolutely have.
but I don't let it consume me.
Which is healthy, right? I mean, that's a good.
It is.
That's a good thing. And, you know, we may come across as sounding dramatic about it, but I do think it is one of those things that you just, like you said, people just don't talk about it. They just, you know, but again, that's what we're here for.
Yeah. All right, this is your last shot. One thing you wish you had known before you had a baby.
How cute your kids were going to be.
I don't know. I honestly,
That's okay.
I cannot think of anything
That's your answer.
that
then.
I wish that I had known before, because I love the way things are.
That was perfect.
Okay. Awesome. So there were a couple of things that you just wanted to plug so that people were aware of it. Can you go ahead and tell us a little bit about the EPI New York Cobblestone Performing Arts Center and person-centered services?
Yes. EPI New York is the epilepsy association that's in the area here that I live in. And they have wonderful opportunities to help people who have epilepsy themselves, or people with who they caregive for, you know, people with epilepsy, family members, whatever. They have a camp for people with epilepsy or their siblings, and you can start going to that camp when you're 10, and it's a week-long overnight camp, and the siblings and the person with epilepsy can go. It's called Camp Eager. And then, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago, no, it was longer than that, 8 years ago, they started one for adults. So that's called Camp Coast. And Allyson has been going to this camp since she was 10 years old every year. And now she goes to Camp Coast, and that's for anyone over the age of 18. I think they put a limit of 30 on it, which is coming soon. But I talked to the coordinator there, Mike Riddell is his name. Wonderful guy. Allyson looks forward to seeing him every year. He makes sure we know about the camp. They have scholarships and all kinds of things like that. But it's the best experience for Allyson to be able to go there and to live her best life. And it also provides me a week of respite, which is much needed.
Hugely important.
Yeah,
Yes.
very important. No. And that
Yeah.
no one dealing in this situation, no one should feel ashamed for needing that, because it is a mental.
And it makes me feel guilty sometimes that I'm like, oh my gosh, Allyson's going to camp. This is going to be a great week. And you know what? It is great because she has a great time, and it gives me that break that I need.
Yeah.
Person-centered services. We get, in the area that I live in, we get a person who's assigned to Allyson who helps me coordinate all her services. Things like getting reimbursement for a little bit of respite every now and then if I need it. Making sure that her Medicaid services stay in eligibility. If it comes up to a time when I need to redo paperwork, they send me something. The person from there helps me get everything taken care of, because that is so overwhelming.
Yeah.
So get a care coordinator. If that's the person from this person-centered services that helps me, they're called a care coordinator. They make sure that if you have Medicaid, you're using enough Medicaid services to stay eligible for it. And one of the big services that Allyson uses is her day hab program, which is called Cobblestone Art Center. And that's, they're trying to expand that program because it's such a wonderful day hab program. I visited a day hab program when I was looking for somewhere for Allyson to go. I visited a day hab program and it scared me to death. Then I found Cobblestone Art Center. What a wonderful, wonderful place. They go to art class, they go to music class, they go to theater class, they have movement class, they go on field trips. They do things and they keep these kids busy and they love it. They absolutely love it.
Is this something that our listeners can donate money to help
Yep.
Cobblestone grow?
Yes. Yep. They do take donations. They take donations, monetary donations. They take donations of craft supplies for art class. They take old clothes that they might use for their theater program. Of course, they need, clothes for the clients in case they have an accident or spill on themselves or, things like that. They take all sorts of donations. So it's just a wonderful, wonderful place with a wonderful staff who loves these kids.
That's what I was going to say. I think the biggest thing we can attest to is that the people that are there that are taking care of your loved ones, that we've all met them. They are the special kind of people that you feel are meant to do what they're doing, and it gives you comfort knowing that your family member is with people that can actually take care of them during the day.
Absolutely, and I know that I have run into people outside of Allyson's school who look at me and say, "You're Allyson's sister, aren't you?" and it says something that they don't just know Allyson. Mm-hmm. They know our whole family.
Yeah.
And it really does make you feel good that she is getting the best care.
I never worry when I put her on that bus in the morning to the time she comes home that anyone would harm her.
That's wonderful.
Or that she would be in any sort of danger, not looked after. It's a wonderful place.
Yeah.
I think this is a wonderful place to wrap up.
Yeah.
I think that this may be a 2-part episode because
This might be a 2-parter.
this is a long one, but I think a very important one.
And I think almost therapeutic in a way. Again, I got way more emotional than I was prepared for. And Mom, I know I saw the tears in your eyes a couple times, and Bethany, same thing. It's a tough topic to talk about, but it's a very real topic. So thank you for coming on and being vulnerable and sharing that with us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. All right, guys, thank you so much. We will see you with our next episode, with our next guest. It'll be very exciting.
Very exciting.
With
Thank you, guys.
My same bad voice.
Yes.
All right, love you.
Love you.
Love you.
Bye.
Yes.
Just the, stop.
If it picks up, yes.
Hi, Miss Allyson.
Hello, Amanda.
Hi, girlfriend.
Hey, Bethany.
How's it going?
Good.
Is this kind of cool?
You sure is.
Thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome, no problem. Get out of here, Amanda. Get out of here, Bethany.
Get out of here.
Like, get out of town.
Yeah, get out of town.
Hey, Allyson, can you tell us how old you are?
So 16.
16.
I don't think that's right.
So
If you're 16, that makes us younger, so.
18.
You are not.
18, I'll take that too.
20.
20 what?
28.
28.
Almost
28 when?
On my birthday.
Which is when?
September
September what?
28.
Are you telling us that you were going to be 28 on the 28th of September?
Yeah, on my birthday.
Stop it. That's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Allyson, I have a question.
Go.
Who is your favorite sister?
Me and Anya was.
Oh,
all right.
That's never a tie. It always wins that one, always.
And I thought for sure I was going to win it that time because she started to point at me.
She did.
I am a sister too.
What?
I'm her sister too.
You're a sister too?
You are
You're a sister too.
What
Yeah.
else? What else are you? You're not just a sister, but you're an...
And
You are an aunt!
Do you love your niece and nephews?
yes,
That's so much fun.
Are you showing them how to be good kids and grow up and make the right choices?
yes,
Do you remember what that's called?
yes.
What's it called? What do we call that? A good
Choice.
choice, but a good role
Model.
model.
Good job.
All right, Allyson, do you want to tell us what your favorite things are?
Yes.
What are your favorite things?
Going Universal.
Going to Universal?
Yeah, and I'm waiting after Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's what you're gonna be doing.
On the plane after Thanksgiving.
We're going.
That sounds fun.
Have you
Right.
ever been to Universal or is this your first time?
What? First time.
First time? Yep. Where do you normally go with mommy?
I go have a party there.
Go have a party there?
We're
but
going to go to the Christmas party
Christmas party.
at Universal. yeah. But
Universal.
where do we usually go on vacation? But we decided not to go there this year. Where do we always go on vacation?
What's on your sweatshirt jacket?
Disney World.
That's it. You like Disney World? What other things do you like to do?
Go on rides.
No.
You know, I heard that you do school plays.
Uh-huh.
Do you do school plays?
Yes.
What kind of plays do you do?
Look on my backpack.
It is like on your backpack. She's not wrong.
I thought she said I forgot my backpack. I was like, did you?
Encanto.
Encanto. Mom
Canto.
taught you how to say that, didn't she?
Canto.
Encanto. We love that one.
And we saw you do Moana.
Yes.
You did Grease. What else?
And you were a pink lady with pink hair.
Yes.
Allyson, what's your next school play gonna be?
It's Great Emotion.
Greatest show.
Great Showman.
Great emotion.
Great Showman.
Greatest show.
Excellent. Good job.
Awesome. Miss Allyson, do you have anything else you want to say?
Yes.
What do you want to say?
Whatever you want, kiddo.
I like to come into your house, Amanda.
You didn't come to my house.
Yeah.
And do what?
Swim over there.
Sleep over there? Yep. And then what are we going to do when you come over to my house?
Fun day.
Well, we are going to have a fun day, but where are we going to go?
Go bowling.
That's it.
Sounds like a party.
All right, Allyson, can you say goodbye to everybody?
Okay, thanks for having. Goodbye. Love you.
Love you too.
Love you too, sweetheart.
I will get the stripes. Be the winner.
Okay.
Please note, the views and opinions shared by our guests are just that, opinions. They do not necessarily reflect our own views on topics discussed. So please keep an open mind while listening, as nothing about our podcast is meant to be hurtful or exclusive. Thanks for joining.